If you think Big Four is the only path for accountants like chartered accountants, chartered certified accountants, management accountants, CA, CCA, CMA, then think again. There are a lot of options out there which are beyond Big Four, which are beyond traditional audit and accounting roles. And CAs, ACCAs, CMAs are really working well in those fields and really having a great career out there. So literally in this video, I want you to think again on your career choices, in terms of options that are available, what different people are doing out there from their accounting qualifications in terms of AI, in terms of strategy, in terms of investment banking, for example, or in terms of other roles like ESG. There is a lot going on. So in this video, stay tuned till the end and I'll be literally telling you each and everything about different career choices out there beyond Big Four traditional audit and accounting roles. I'm not denying the importance of Big Four here. Big Four are really important firms. They help you shape your career from start. At least, it's very important to get some experience from Big Four at the start. That really helps and opens a lot of doors for you. Your CA training, your ACCA training, or articleship, or whatever you do in that sense. If that's from Big Four, it opens a lot of doors for you very easily. But it's not the end of the world, right? If you got training in the Big Four, do you really want to continue your journey in the Big Four and your partner route, which is really getting hard if you know about it. It's getting very hard every year to be partner. There are different levels introduced within the hierarchy, so it's getting hard. But what I want you to think of is, can you switch to another sort of job, a different sort of career, and what are options out there for you to explore beyond your typical traditional audit or tax or compliance sort of roles as part of your accounting journey. With that, for initial experience, initial careers, Big Four is the ideal choice, as I mentioned. If you don't get Big Four, don't get disheartened. You can get into some other firms and then start your journey. Now, thinking beyond initial experience that you get in your initial career, you have to think broader about what is your role going forward in terms of what is something that you want to do. Just to give you an overview first, and then we'll go deep dive into the details, what kind of jobs chartered accountants, ACCAs, CIMAs, or any sort of professional accountants can get into is like strategic finance, FP&A, investment banking, forensic accounting, ESG accounting, AI-driven startup, sort of being there as a finance person over there, even CFOs in some startups, and there are a lot more roles as well, which we will be covering in this video. We'll talk about how to actually deviate from traditional Big Four to that sort of roles as well. Just in terms of giving you some comfort, and this is actual reality. There are a lot of people out there who have shifted and they are doing really well. I'll give you two examples and then we'll move to the actual sort of fields, etc. So I knew somebody from work. He worked with me along like 2 years. He was an assistant manager, and then of course he had his chartered accountancy from abroad, not in UK, and literally in 2 to 3 years he got an offer as a CFO in a startup, and now he's doing incredibly well. So the bet you take in terms of the emerging industries like AI, like startups, like Fintech, those bets can pay well. That's a career choice people make as well, and people get successful. At the same time, I know somebody in India as well. He shifted away from traditional chartered accountancy fields like auditing, etc. Went for a finance role in one of the startups, and then started moving through different startups and doing really incredibly well. A lot of promotions literally in 2 to 3 years. So that's happening, right? The purpose of giving the examples is not theoretical. What I'm saying is actually happening in practice. People are actually shifting towards different fields now in terms of different frontiers where you can go. It's literally tech startups, so Fintech, AI-led startups whereby there's a need of finance people, and similarly you got a different sector or maybe different segment whereby you work in public sector, government entities as well. So that's another field where chartered accountants, ACCs, etc. are doing incredibly well. And other sectors out there which is around the process of money making, like investment banking, some sort of M&As, ESG, all those sort of specialized fields whereby you don't have a direct experience, but with some certification, some experience, some knowledge, you can actually excel in those fields as well. So there are like main areas. And then if you break down into different sub areas like forensic accounting, you talk about audit, you talk about assurance, and assurance there's areas like treasury, there's areas like credit risk, there's areas like modeling and analytics. You can work in the fields like M&A, you can work in fields like deal advisory, private equity, and then there are a lot more fields, ESG, etc. So all these things are really open for you if you just want to explore in those areas. Now talking specifically about the segment, the first segment we talked about was more around the lines of tech startup, fintechs, or maybe AI enabled, the future, basically whatever is going on in the market right now. So that is where a lot of chartered accountants are driving value either by themselves, by doing something that they want to do for themselves, their own business like consulting, or working in companies whereby they are able to drive that innovation. Your role is not to create software, create code, etc., but your role is to manage those startups, those companies where they're starting, they are sound, financially feasible, right? So that's a very important role from FP&A, and that's not like a very specific role you see in that companies. If you are in that sort of startup, you'll be asked to do a lot more than your job description. You'll be asked to do this, but that's part of the process whereby you're actually helping build something from start to end, which is really wonderful. That means a lot more time and efforts, but there's a demand for finance people as well. It's not just the software people or the tech people are going out and doing startups and doing things. You need a solid financial backing, and chartered accountants, professional accountants are really there to help drive that change and drive that sort of process. So that's very, very important. And with increase in AI and everything, your traditional roles like bookkeeping, reconciliations, or for example bank statement recons or general ledgers or vouching, all these things are almost being replaced anyways. So what you're going to left with is sort of a strategic mindset as how do I drive the value for any organization, understand the numbers, and maybe with a bit of data analytics background and knowing how data works, you can really be very, very valuable, and you can ace very, very good jobs across this industry in a growing field. The core activities you typically do, as I say, varies from company to company, and literally you'll be asked to do a lot. But things that you can be involved generally in these sort of companies which are in early stage trying to grow, or maybe some companies which are startup, scale up, you can be asked to do FP&A, you can be asked to do strategy, you can be asked to do prepare financial statements, you can be asked to do look after tax and stuff as well, maybe some sort of M&As, because M&A is quite common in these companies whereby they acquire someone, they get acquired as well, then strategic direction as well, and then there's a lot on financing, as how to manage financing, how to make sure you get. So all these things are not just a compliance thing, it's beyond compliance. It's basically creating value, and as a professional you are well versed to understand what you need is just a bit of experience, a bit of polishing on your skills to actually come on this direction and not just stick to your traditional auditing role. The second sector we mentioned was impact beyond profit. Really, it's like non-profit or public services. As a chartered accountant, you are able to drive that sort of change if you want to, of course. And public services and non-profit as well. There are a lot of opportunities coming there. I know the public services pay a little less than private sector in most cases, despite having better job security, but of course sometimes they pay less. But in that case, you are able to drive that change. It's an individual preference. I never like government job, but some people actually want that, and there are a lot of opportunities, maybe in auditing field of the government, or maybe finance department, or maybe compliance. There are a lot of opportunities out there, and that's beyond Big Four. That creates impact, that creates value for you, for anybody else, and for the whole country. So if you're somebody who's like very much patriotic, who want to serve the nation, this field actually allows you to create that sort of value by working with the different government departments. Even I know chartered accountants, ACCA accountants get good roles in World Bank, Asian Development Bank, all these things whereby you are actually walking around the world and sort of having international scope. So it's actually doable. It requires a bit of skills, and the government jobs have their own process, etc. But this is another field you need to think of for your own journey. Last bit we talked about was specialized roles like treasury. For example, I'm in treasury, and then the specialized roles can be like M&As, deal advisory, or cutting edge technologies like in the future of AI, etc. Now this is very important that you won't necessarily have those skills as part of your CA education, part of your ACCA education. There will be brief things here and there, but not like you're gonna make sure that you are able to do everything. In that case, if you start your journey, if you want to start your journey in that area, you may need to do some courses, some sort of certifications to actually get started. But these areas are high money making and high risk areas as well. If you talk about investment banking as a chartered accountant, if you want to go into banking and you are restricted by visa in the country, for example, it's very easy to fire someone, right? It's one of those dynamic fields whereby there's no money, then there is no business, and then you don't need people in the business side. So that sort of mindset is out there. But what I'm saying here is this is the field which is generally very exciting, because you literally play with numbers, you literally play with how things work out, and literally think of how economy works, what deals people are making, how they are doing it, why they are doing it. And adding that to the data analytics and sort of automation, I think it's really a wonderful career if you go down that route. I know a lot of people very much successful, earning handsome money, and of course, having a lot of good bonuses as well. So great career out there. The career options can be very specialized roles. There are a lot of money making activities out there, and every activity essentially needs sort of finance, accounting, compliance element anyways. Even if you think of a big sports franchise, then they need to make sure they have somebody to look after the records, compliance, strategy, finances, everything. So the finance need is everywhere. It's just knowing where you started what sort of experience you get, what's your career direction, and where you want to end. So you need to make sure you think of all that early in your career when you're starting, and then go from there. So yes, there are a lot of options out there, a lot of opportunities. It's just a question of how you opt that. LinkedIn is definitely a great source out there, connecting people, knowing what people are going through, and knowing how they did the journey, and then going from there. Similarly, there are job posts, everything out there. You may need to do some certifications if you're going to go into fields like AI, data analytics, data visualization, or maybe even Python, or development of the code, development of scripts. There are a lot of options out there. You just need to go and do that. What's also very important is even in the traditional roles, if you're looking, for example, in taxation, you need to make sure you're learning taxation of other country, where you want to go, where you want to plan your life onwards. So you need to make sure that as well. So literally, there are a lot of options out there. It's just knowing that what you want to do, how you want to do, and where you get started. Because starting is difficult. I will be very fair. Before experience does help in the start. It definitely gives you a great start for your career. But after that, you have to decide. So literally, the world is your oyster. Your qualification, being professional accountant, is a passport literally to embrace all the global opportunities come your way, right? And there are a lot out there, hopefully. So I definitely see a lot of people moving to different roles in their own setup or within companies, and this is the exciting times for you with AI enablement. See what your role looks like into how you want to drive your own career. That's probably all for this video. Hopefully this helps. Thank you so much for watching.